So when I get the idea to do something, I just kind of do it, like writing an entire book in 14 days. Hey, I'm Carrie. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome for the first time. All around, welcome. I'm carrieblogger, a career freelancer on Fiverr.com, where I've been selling as a Fiverr Pro verified copywriter for about the past 8 years. And in today's Freelance Friday video, I am discussing National Novel Writing Month. But you think to yourself, it's not November. No, it's not. Clearly, it's February. But the concept of National Novel Writing Month is that you are expected to write, or hopefully you get writing, 50,000 words within 30 days. So not only is it February, but I also decided to up the ante a little bit, and I wrote 63,000 words in 14 days. So in today's video, I'm going to be outlining my writing schedule, what I did to prepare, and tips if you're looking to write a book or some substantial project of any kind anytime soon. So first, we've got to get an idea. My concept, I actually, no joke, got in a dream. It's dystopian. And the concept says that in a world that guarantees happiness for everyone, everyone has to settle a little bit. And there are different classes of society that you can freely go choose that would give you that happiness. So for example, you can have opulent, wealthy lifestyle, but you're lacking stability. You can have fame, but you lack autonomy. You can have family and community, but you lack status. You can have a deep connection with animals, but you lack energy. And there's all of this little balancing of the system. So we follow my character who starts out in his life, moving through the system, trying different classes to find his contentment, his harmony. And what happens if in a utopia, you personally are experiencing something dystopic? What if you can't find your happiness? What if you've given something up for someone else, a chance that you can never take back, and that in an earlier phase of your life later impacts everything moving forward? So it's like deeply inspired by The Bell Jar and 1984 and This Perfect Day, but also not any of those things. And since October, I have been stewing on it. I've been thinking about it. I've just thought, dang, this would be such a good book. But I felt like I didn't have the skills or ability to write a book. Not that it wasn't a good enough idea for a book, but I felt incompetent to be writing that book. Which is why we get right away into the get inspired part of this video. Thing number one. I started rereading Jane Eyre. Growing up, I was an avid reader. Like, my social skills at a young age were incredibly poor. And I read everything. I absolutely loved to read. And then in high school, all of a sudden, even among like the AP kids, it became that it wasn't cool to actually be reading and doing the material. That struck right at the beginning of Jane Eyre. I stopped reading because the people around me were pressuring me socially that it was more cool to use Cliff Notes. It was more cool to just pretend that you knew what was going on and be so smart that you didn't even have to read the book, that I didn't read the book. And so getting back into Jane Eyre as an adult and being like, you know what? I loved this book. I loved the writing. And I should like follow my own personal passion and read it. And as stupid as that sounds, that really creatively inspired me. That this book that was absolutely beautifully written, it just got me thinking in a new creative way. And it made me feel more like in tune with myself and like what I want to create and find artistic value in. The second thing I did to get inspired and change my mindset was I went to a psychic, which might sound a little weird depending on your frame of reference. I'd never been to a psychic before. It was an amazing experience. And one of the things that she read in me is that my work with writing is where I'm supposed to be, that writing is something deeply linked with my personality, but that I might not be doing exactly the writing that I should be. And that's because I'm holding myself back, and that I was scared to make the choice to write something that really mattered to me. And it really resonated with me. And so with that wake up call a little bit, then the very next day, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna write this damn book. So now we have to start planning. So the first challenge that was the biggest hurdle for me to go from concept to I'm actually going to start writing this was I needed to come up with the different classes of society, because in order to build this world, I had to actually have a structure that was balanced in my own head and would function that way. So I started out by taking this kind of graphing system, and I wanted to measure different things that drive human happiness. And then I cut out little pieces on my bed and I spun them around and I made everything right. The next thing I did was actually draw out a map of where my character was going. And I included several different versions of trying to pace the story so that I knew, at least hitting 50,000 words, but hoping for 60,000 or above, how all of those pieces were going to lay out with climax points, transitions, and where he was in the journey. I did all of those things in December. Again, I've been sitting on this for a long time. A long time, but for me, that's a long time to sit and feel unable to get started just out of the fear of doing that. And now we start writing. If I was really smart and this video was going to be even better than it is right now, which who knows how it'll turn out, I would have vlogged this, but honest to God, it would not have been interesting at all because it was just me sitting on the couch. I mean, I could have hemmed and hawed for you in a different position than I am right now, but it was just me sitting on the couch. So of those 14 days, for the first 8 days, I was actually working just like normal. So in addition to all the writing that I was doing on my book, I was also writing for clients several hours a day. And that was hard. It was really hard because I write for my living anyway, but it's a completely different kind of writing. And when I was working on those client projects, all I wanted to do was write the book. Realizing that very quickly, I put myself on out of office so that I could work through the work that I had in my queue. And then beautifully, the last 6 days were completely work-free. All I had to do was work on the book. And if you can do that, which is like such a crazy thing, that's weird that my job lets me have that control over my schedule. Oh my God, it was amazing. 6 days of like writing 7 to 16 hours a day and just writing. Oh yeah, it was good. At the very beginning, pace-wise, I was writing 2,000 to 5,000 words. By the end, I was up to like 12 or 15,000 words a day. And that was just like, yes. I didn't leave the couch. My house was a complete wreck. And my husband and I basically didn't see each other. But the book got done. Tips. Here's how to do it. Don't go back and edit. I've heard this tip from a lot of authors, a lot of writers just in general. They say, just whack it out, just get the first draft done. It's gonna be ugly, you're gonna hate it. And I always thought, I don't wanna hate my first draft, that sounds awful. But I think I get it now. I think I get the big ugly first draft thing in concept now that I've done it. Because early on, the days that I would go back and think, ooh, I think I wanna add this one thing, I would end up reading this giant long stretch. I would edit everything. I would change everything. And then by the time I finally got to adding the one little thing in there that I wanted, I had essentially wasted 3 hours of my time just like slightly reworking things that didn't really need to get done because the rest of the story hasn't even been written yet. Don't go back and edit. If when you're writing something, you notice, ooh, that's a really good thing. I could have foreshadowed that back here. Or I think last time I mentioned this, I called that a different color. I should probably go check. Just write it down in a note. Mark it down, make sure that your memories are being heard, but don't actually go back and edit it, at least not right now. Number 2, talk it out with someone. My husband, he's such a nice guy. He's a gem, and I love him dearly. He talked me off a ledge without even knowing that he did. I had a very clear ending in my mind, and I knew that was what I wanted to do. And as I approached the end, I got all up in my head, and I thought, I don't know if this is where the story's supposed to go. And I went through round and round of options. He helped me convince myself that I needed to just write it the way I knew it had to be done. So talking to a friend is so helpful, especially if they're not trying to help you, they're just trying to listen. Or at least pretend like they're listening. Number 3, related, trust your gut. You know how the story goes. You know what you want to say. Just don't overthink it. Don't let the negative self-talk get in your head and just write it. Number 4, use a program like Scrivener to write. Break it up into chapters and subtopics and move it around and have icons. It was only $50 for the license. You can even use it with a trial period first if you're just trying things out. It is so helpful, and I highly recommend actually setting yourself up in an environment where you can let your thoughts have organization and someplace to go. Number 5, I don't think I've held up this many fingers yet. Personally, I think it's completely okay to follow the big story arc of your story. That was so redundant. So especially when I was in like, I'm writing 15,000 words a day, just like brain blast, my fingers are like on fire. I skipped a whole section to get to the next monster point because those are the things that drive the plot and make the book what it is. So the last day, that was actually going back and just filling in all of those smaller scenes that I knew I needed to write, I knew I wanted to write, but had actually just like skipped over in the real time process. Number 6, outline on paper. I honestly didn't outline at all beside his actual journey of the story at first. I knew exactly what I was doing. I didn't need to sit down and write it because I already knew it was like a movie going in my head of what I wanted to write. But the farther I got, the more options that I had, I felt like I needed a little bit more structure. So then I started actually writing down the order of what I wanted to say. I would check it off, cross it off, change it as I went through in the writing process. Somehow that gave me a creative break from feeling like I'm staring at my computer. This has to be right. It has to be in the right order. And that felt a little bit overwhelming. And breaking it off and getting into something paper and tangible and different, that was so helpful. And the last thing, this isn't super a tip, but it kind of is. It might sound like a meme. I wrote a book in 14 days, which, yeah, hopefully makes the title a little more clickable. I don't feel like I rushed it in like a bad way. I feel like it helped me feel so in tune with the story because nothing got forgotten. I didn't have enough time to forget stuff. Foreshadowing was so easy when I had literally written a day ago the thing that had happened 10,000 words earlier. And it was so easy to connect those dots because it was so fresh in my mind. It sounds ridiculous to write this fast, and it might seem like, oh, you're just throwing stuff on the page. It can't be good. It's too rushed. I was so immersed in the story in a way that I have not been ever writing before. And it was such a creatively fulfilling, exciting process. And honestly, writing it fast. I think that's kind of what made it so special. So next up, I have to figure out how in the heck to get this published. I'm currently going through for an actual editing round. I'm going to do probably 3 of those just back to back. Then I'm going to let somebody read it, hopefully. And then I've got to figure out how to get it published. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm so glad I wrote it. I'm so absolutely glad that I did this and tried something new and really focused on my authentic self, what I want to put out into the world. And if you are thinking about writing a book, do it. If you're thinking about writing a blog, do it. If you're thinking about writing for client briefs, do it. You can't be a writer unless you write. So thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't already, you should do that right now. That'd be awesome. You can find some really cool links in the description down below that support my channel if you're interested in that. And I so appreciate you being here. So thank you. Let's get back to work.